Um, yeah, it's great to be in Barcelona, which I guess is sort of the secret city for mobility solutions. Every time our company had anything to say or anything to listen to when it came to mobility, we came to Barcelona. So it's really great. Let me talk about me, though, a little bit more. I'm what they may call in our company a Ford lifer, actually a second-generation Ford employee. So I grew up on the backseat of a Ford in the 60s and passed my driver's license in a Ford in the 70s, hired in the company as an engineer in the 80s. And that I did for 25 years. I was in product development, and for the last few years, I'm now the Vice President for Sustainability, Environment, and Safety. And you really have to like change in this job, because change is what is happening in this world, and the challenges which are coming our way. And that's what I'm doing here. I will talk about how we perceive what is happening in this environment in which we operate, and how our company is getting ready for it. But let me first talk a little bit about history. Henry Ford, like most of his contemporaries, he believed in societal gain and profit of a company had to come together, not at the expense of one another. And he had this great vision of safe and efficient transportation, and it had to be affordable, because that was his dream, to put the masses on wheels. So when he created the Model T, it actually became not only a car, it became a foundation of what we now call mobility. It put people on wheels, and it allowed people to choose where they wanted to work, where they wanted to live, and where they wanted to play. So it's really the beginning of what we now call mobility. And you would say we have had a wonderful history, but as this quote says in different words, you cannot really do a lot with that history when it comes to shaping your future. And for decades, all we have done is worrying about how to sell more cars and trucks and service them. And I think this presentation has to be put back into the presentation mode, yes. And I think this is now the point where we are, where we realize if that was all we just did, then we had no future. So we really are at the eve of dealing with a new challenge. And I will now explain what I think are the root causes for these inhibitants of what we think are issues for our transportation models. So, first issue is urbanization. You have heard it, but let me talk about it anyway. 75% of people will live in cities in about 30 plus years. 75%, which is double from 3.5, by then 7 billion. And if you think that this is an issue just somewhere in Asia, I mentioned earlier here this afternoon a city where Ford has 3 plants, Chongqing, nobody knows it, 35 million. And if you want to think about mega cities, then these are the type of top 10 cities. But you only have to go to London. London, a few hundred miles away from here, and then you deal with, already as we speak, 8 million people, forecasted to go all the way up to 10 million just by the end of the decade. And we have an engineering center in Essex, just 50 miles or 45 miles away from London, so I'm in London quite often. Getting there, you pass the ring road, the M25. People call it the largest parking lot of the world. Then you get into the city, then you see mobility challenges. You have to pay an entrance fee called congestion charge. So all of this is just around the corner. And it just is not only affecting our ability to travel, it also has an impact on, of course, air pollution and other aspects like healthcare food providing and so on. The next reason which I want to highlight is the growth of the global middle class. Now, that's great for the parts of the world which want to have the same accomplishments which our Western societies have had over the last 100 plus years. The starting point is different. When Henry kicked off his Model T, there were thousands, hundreds, maybe after a while 10,000 of vehicles on the road. Our starting point is 800 million. So as this new middle class is growing and reaches an income level which allows them to buy a vehicle, this will actually lead to an increase of vehicles on the road, which is estimated to be anywhere between 2 and 4 billion by 2050. Put that together with the fact that 75% of this transportation will be in cities, then we know we are facing global gridlock. It's the never-ending traffic jam, and there is no more transportation going to work. All of this already affects us daily. We have done research, which is being announced here during this event, which suggests that people think that the commute to work is more stressful than work itself. I certainly hope that this was true for you today, but not that the commute was stressful, but that the event is so less stressful. But what we also know from the same research is that people, 30% just here in Barcelona, and we have data for other megacities in Europe as well, they're adding 20 minutes per day to their commute to be at work on time. And if you think about 20 minutes, then okay, that's 20 minutes. But if you add it up, then you're talking 3 days each year, all being added to your daily commute to be there on time. So we know it's here and there, and it's going to stay, and it's going to get worse. So what are we doing about it? Ford here in Barcelona a few years ago kicked off the so-called blueprint for mobility. In 3 chunks, near-term, mid-term, long-term, we decided, let's go back to the drawing board. We need to figure out what do we really need to do, because we don't think we know the answer. It's the experimentation phase, which we now are in. It's the near-term thing, where we talk to cities, drivers, we forge strategic relationships, and think about what technology is missing, and or do we need to change our business model. And it's really unnerving when you experiment with experimentation, when you don't know the outcome for a company which for 100 plus years has known their own business model and what they wanted to accomplish. So the first step is you have to see the automobile not any longer as being the navel of the world in which you operate. It's just one ingredient in the ecosystem called transportation. All these other modes of transportation have been around, nothing new here. What is new is that you have to look at it like a big connected network. And that's exactly what we need to do. We need to forge new partnerships. We need to talk to different people. We need to all start a dialogue to listen to each other, because none of these players can fix the challenge of the future without interacting with the other. And that's what we need to do. And as a first step, and the biggest step, absolutely inevitable, even if it's uncomfortable, we need to gather and use data. So we have, for instance, and I show you a photograph here of one of our engineers in Palo Alto. We have experiments running how to gather data with bicycles. Simple data at the beginning, wheel speed, acceleration, weather, but then it would be put into a cloud where it can be used by others. And then it becomes very important that if many do this, if everybody does it, then you can use this data and you can shape transportation ecosystems. So, at the end, and I show this just as an example, what we really need is high volume traffic flow in confined space. And if we think this is impossible, well, just think of this, okay? There is nature. And this is just one of many species which have figured out how you can put high volume traffic through limited space. The next thing we did in this experimentation phase, we just kicked off a bunch of experiments. And we really did it in an orchestrated way. Some were already running, we just thought about it and regrouped them. Some we kicked off new. And I will talk about 2 or 3 later in my presentation. But the whole point is it's a global approach. We want to learn from different parts of the world. We want to rethink what we think we already knew. And that's how I want to start showing you a little bit more about these experiments which we are running. And the first one I show you is called Go Drive. It's an experiment which is being run in London. And the experts for it are actually in the room. They're available later for interviews, Alicia and her colleague. And why do we go back to car sharing, which we thought is the easiest thing, which we already can see in operational all over the place? Well, we were just not absolutely sure we do it the right way, and it cannot be optimized further. Is it really done in the way the customers want it? And for instance, there are people who are now saying publicly it may actually weaken the infrastructure. And with that, I want to show you a movie which is introducing the team and what we're doing in London. Yeah, lots of cities are dealing with these mobility challenges, and as I said earlier, Barcelona has always been a step ahead of many other municipals. Bicing, as it was introduced many years ago here in Barcelona, has been actually later copied into London, probably with all the lessons learned from Barcelona. So it's really an interesting concept, sharing bike rides. Now, what you may find surprising is that Ford also has decided to experiment with this. After 100+ years of cars, we are now going back to two-wheelers. So we have kicked off a project which is called Handle on Mobility, where we want to find out what could a bicycle in combination with a car do when you can charge the batteries whilst driving, when you can take it out and put it back in. And I have another video here for you, which is showing you how it would look like. And here is a foldable bicycle, which you can take out of your vehicle. And this is for personal transportation, but also there is another version of the same, which will be shown in a second, in a van, which is for Amazon deliveries or something like that kind. And it's all linked up by what we call Model Link, which is again using data or creating data to be put back into the cloud for other purposes. So it can structure, it can tell you where to go, how to avoid traffic jam situations or bad weather conditions. And this is one of the experiments which I talked about earlier. Outcome, we don't know. Is there a business behind it? We don't know. That's why we study it. So it goes back to our experimentation phase. So can companies like ours, can civic organizations, can all these big organizations fix this? We don't think so. We know there is a super big crowd of developers and maker communities and software developers out there, which we want to tap into. So we have created what we call OpenXC platform, which allows us to open our platform for hardware and software, and we can connect to customer applications or pluggable modules. And with that, we now can go to these communities and reach out to those, and we do it by ways of competition, which seems to be a great way of getting people excited. And I have here today the outcome of my favorite, which is the so-called Monsoon Challenge, where we went to the city of Mumbai and worked with people in India, worked with us on how could this type of approach help Mumbai, a city which suffers from 4 months of monsoon rain, which is really impacting mobility in this city of 12 million people. And I would like you again to listen to a video of the winner of this competition, which is Kiati. Well, this is a good example of the challenges in the urban areas, but we have found also that we have to focus on rural areas where there are different mobility challenges. So another one of these experiments is actually working with an organization called Riders for Help, which is an organization which maintains fleets of vehicles, which brings healthcare to people in countries where there are undeveloped and unpaved roads, like in Gambia in Africa. And we work with them, again, using the OpenXC platform to help maintaining the vehicles better and enhance the efficiency. But as a side product, we actually generate data which allows maps of the region to be produced, because most mapping companies won't go there. So with that, I actually come to my summary, because my time is coming to an end here. I could go on and talk about the other experiments, but what I really would like to leave you with as a thought is that there is no one organization or corporation which can handle the mobility challenges of the future. There is no silver bullet, and there's no one solution. And if we think more roads or better train networks could be the solution, then we just don't think that this is true. What we really need is a global network of interconnected solutions. But in order to get that accomplished, we need to change the way how we work with each other. We need new partnerships. We need people who have no history of working with each other, big or small companies, maybe even rivals who need to start working with each other. Building trust, just cooperate. And the role which my company has to play in that is that we have to also change big time. We have to change our approach, our agility. We need to become much more open and not as something which should be underestimated. We need to start this whole process by being much more humble. Thank you, and with that, I'm done. Thank you very much.